Ready to start? Unmuted. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Welcome to Berkeley Lab. Welcome to summer. We're very excited to have you. My name is Andy Nonaka, and along with Dan Martin, who shall raise his hand right now, we're both first and foremost staff scientists in the Applied Mathematics and Computational Research Division, but we are also co-organizing all the events that have been planned this summer. But in addition to that, huge help from administrative support. In particular, I see Andrew here, I see Diana there, but it takes a village. It's more than just Dan and I. There are a ton of people behind the scenes organizing, putting all these talks together and all these events together. And we'll give you a brief overview of the lab and everything from here on forward. So welcome to Berkeley. So here we are. We're one of the 17 Dewey National Labs. We're in Berkeley, we're in blue, we're an Office of Science laboratory. But you can see a map of the expansive reach that the National Lab System has. They're supported by different offices. You can see coded at the bottom, there's Office of Science laboratories, National Nuclear Security Administration laboratories, et cetera. And you can see they're nicely distributed geographically around the country. So here we sit, we're a DOE multipurpose lab, along with a lot of the other labs listed on the left, which basically means we do a lot of different things. Now, the things that we're going to tell you about today are computing sciences area centric. Within the lab here, there are 6 areas and other things, biosciences, environmental science. But we here, this is a computing sciences area program within Berkeley Lab. Okay. So our mission statement is to bring science solutions to the world. So there's a couple main charts of our mission statement. Number 1, solve major problems in basic science, security, and energy. 2, design, build, and operate unique scientific facilities. In fact, we have 5 national user facilities, which will be highlighted on a later slide. And you all will get the opportunity to tour most of those facilities this summer if you RSVP. And the 3rd bullet point, this is important, why many of you are here, is to educate and train the next generation of scientists. Okay, we have a very team science philosophy here at the lab. That's what we were founded upon here, to be able to do large projects that single PIs at a university couldn't do. But we also have a strong mission statement to educate and train the next generation of scientists, which is part of the reason why you are all here. So there's Dr. Ernest Lawrence. This laboratory actually started on campus in 1931 and moved up here on the hill to the prime real estate with the view up here in 1940. I was just thinking about this when I was looking at the slide. If you've seen the movie Oppenheimer, there's a lot of scenes, mostly down on campus, that actually shows Dr. Robert Oppenheimer interacting with Lawrence here. Those were all done on campus, but it was a precursor to the time when he was still on campus. But now we've been up here on the site since we originally founded as the Rad Lab down on campus, and we've been up here since 1940. So this is kind of our brag about ourselves slide featuring statistics about our lab in particular. 16 Nobel Prizes have been awarded here. If you wander the streets around here, the streets are all named after Nobel laureates, as oftentimes supercomputers tend to be as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. 18 National Medals of Science. This entire lab has about 4,000 employees. The budget to run the lab is about $1.5 billion a year, and within those 4,000 employees, there's on the order of 800 postdocs, 250 grad students. We generate about 2,000 publications a year. There are undergraduate students that are here as well. Now, we here are actually UC employees. We're managed by the University of California. Among the DOE labs, of those 17 labs you saw on the prior slide, an independent report named us as being ranked #1 overall and #2 overall in those fields down below, physical sciences and chemistry, and earth and environmental scientists, as quantified by high impact papers. So we do a really good job here. The national user facilities, there are 5 of them. I hope there's 5 logos. Yeah, there's the Joint Genome Institute. There's NERSC, which is very relevant and part of CSA. You're going to hear the word NERSC probably 20,000 times before you leave here and another 500 times before you leave this room today. So you'll learn more about that in a minute. But basically the supercomputing center housed here. Many of you are actually sitting on top of it in the building next door. You'll get a chance to go down, maybe even putting hands on it later in the tour session. The molecular foundry, which is way across on the other side of the lab. The advanced light source, which is kind of in the center of the lab. That was the picture that that's the one that's in the Berkeley Lab logo. I don't know if that appears on the screen here, but anyway. And then ESNet, which is also part of computing sciences. You'll hear a lot more about ESNet in the coming slides and in the coming weeks. So we take stewardship here very seriously, and you can read about more at the website. But to summarize, and Dan Martin's going to talk about this more a little bit later, we have a great culture of team science here. In fact, the whole point that Ernest Lawrence wanted to establish this particular lab, and in fact, the national laboratory system in general, was for team science, because certain problems can't be solved by small teams at universities. They require lots of expertise and lots of different disciplines. And that's one of the founding reasons why these labs exist, for large-scale team science. We, as a lab, are bound to serve our country in terms of science that matters for solutions to help energy solutions in the country. Everything we do here is built upon trust and integrity. Make sure we operate ethically as well. Obviously, innovation is a key aspect of research here. It's world-class, cutting edge, and we need to operate in all manners in a respectful manner toward each other. You can read a lot more about that. Dan's going to revisit this later, but go on. So the specific mission of computing sciences area, which is one of the 6 areas of the lab, you can read them up on, let's read them off. Achieve transformational breakthrough impacts in scientific domains through the discovery and use of advanced computational methods and systems, and make them accessible to the broad science community. So that's our mission statement, and that's what we try to live by here. Well, hopefully you get to experience this for yourselves, depending on what aspect of what project you get to work on. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more, give you a really broad overview of what CSA is, with the enticement that you will have the opportunity to hear from the actual experts in each of these fields, and in many cases, and especially early on, the leadership of these institutions I'm about to describe, starting this Thursday. So you can advance the slide. So computing sciences has 4 divisions within it. Scientific Data Division, AMCR, which stands for Applied Mathematics and Computational Research, the ESNet, or the Energy Sciences Network, or NERSC, National Energy Research Scientific Computing Center. So on this Thursday, which is our next event, there will be leadership, the leader of Computing Sciences, Associate Lab Director Jonathan Carter, followed by leadership from each of those, or 3 of them on Thursday's case, that will give you more of a 15-minute overview each on what each of their divisions are about. What I'm going to do right now is show you a 1-slide enticement just to kind of pre-advertise Thursday, and hope you all come, because the leaders of these entities will be showing up Thursday to give talks and descriptions about what they do. So let's go to the first one. So applied mathematics and computational research. Okay. This is from the bullet points. It's written in broad language, transforms bold scientific ideas into blazing fast reality through a unique math to machine pipeline. Within AMCR, there's actually 4 departments. One is applied mathematics, one is computational science, one is computer science, and one of them is mathematics. This involves a lot of modeling, simulation, computer architecture, hardware, software, compilers, language, simulations. You can see here, yes, machine learning is pervasive in everything and is a part of everything we do. So it still exists here in the AMCR half of things, even though Scientific Data Division, it's more explicitly in the name. But you can see key modeling efforts. Actually, they nicely picked images on the bottom of the slide that Dan Martin and I are involved in with our groups. We use simulation frameworks such as the AMRX frameworks depicted there to do simulations of, in this case, there's a picture of a combustion flame, there's a particle accelerator depicted in the next frame, and Antarctic ice sheets, which are all projects that at least Dan and I over the past 10 years have had our hands in, sometimes by quite a bit. Okay, advance slides. So Stefan Wild, who's the division director of AMCR, will be speaking on Thursday to give you a more in-depth overview. Okay, the second division is scientific data. Okay, scientific data fosters breakthroughs in the applications and developments of data science methods, technologies, infrastructures in partnership with scientific domain experts. So there is a machine learning group. There's data infrastructure security, privacy for scientific computing, energy technology groups, software engineering sustainability groups. So Anna Kupresinen will be here on Thursday, and she will give a 15-minute overview of the activities that are going on in her division, the scientific data division. Next. Okay, you're going to hear a lot about NERSC, not only because Rebecca Hartman-Baker, who's the leader of the user engagement group, will be here on Thursday. And when I say here, I mean we're going to be meeting over in Building 59 for the rest of the talks this summer. There are lots of NERSC training events you've probably seen in your email. They're catered to varying levels from very beginning, starting out with programming, all the way up to fairly moderate level of, I've used Unix before. I may have logged into one of these systems before. How do I write parallel codes? The NERSC training events are for you to enjoy and to learn from. Consult with your advisor or mentor about which ones may be appropriate for you, because unlike most of the other events, these are all-day training events, and I think there are 3 of them, and some of them are multi-day. So they're pretty comprehensive. They're designed with students in mind, or early career researchers who haven't used these resources. So not only are you going to hear talks throughout the summer about what researchers and computer systems engineers are doing at NERSC, there are lots of training events, and they're very much front-loaded. You'll notice most of the training events happen within the first 4 weeks of the program, and that's by design. So please read the abstracts on those, and if they interest you, consult with your mentor, whether you have the time commitment, but I would highly recommend it, in particular if this is new to you. So in the NERSC building, which is building 59, Perlmutter sits in the lower levels. There'll be tours of that facility later in the summer you can sign up for. When it debuted, I believe it was around number 7 on the top 500 list, and since it's a few years old, it is now still in the top 20. It's number 19, but it's the primary scientific computing facility for the Office of Science. They'll give you the stats later. Thousands of users. Don't quote me on this, but it's over 5,000 users, and many projects you can see spanning the different offices of the science and DOE. You're going to hear a lot more about this, so I'll let the experts talk more about that. And the last division, ESNet. So this is the DOE's scientific network, which is stewarded here at LBL. But you can see on the left, it's a map of all the interconnected national labs, and the color coding indicates the transfer rates between them. But it's a national network that connects all of our laboratory for open science. We will have Eli Dart from ESNet speaking in a few weeks. You'll see it on the CS calendar, who will tell you more about ESNet and to give the overview of that. So if you want to hear more about that, check for that talk coming in a couple weeks. Okay, the last thing I'm going to mention before I transfer over to Dan is, so here's a map of Berkeley Lab. It says you are here. We are actually where the upper arrow is pointing in the auditorium. About half of you sit in that Building 50 complex, which is attached to the auditorium, and the other half of you are in Building 59, which is a 5-minute walk from here. That's where the NERSC building is, and in Building 59 is where almost all of the remaining talks, seminars, and events that we'll describe in the next slides are going to be happening. You'll notice this is a 2D map, but you'll notice it's very hilly around here. Take extreme caution. It's very hilly. If you need to walk to the other side of the lab, in theory, there are pathways that exist, but I found that if you need to travel, sometimes it might be better to take the shuttle across, because it's very hilly and some of the pathways are pretty narrow. But if you're staying on our side, you've seen, you may have to travel uphill, up and down lots of stairs. One thing that's highlighted on there in the teal boxes are, we don't have a cafeteria right now. It's being rebuilt. So the teal boxes highlight where the food truck service is available. You can go to food.lbl.gov to see the menus and what food trucks are here and pre-reserved food. It's probably a good idea to get there by 11:45 if you want to avoid massive lines. But thankfully, the teal box on the left is really close to us. It's right on the other side of Building 50. Hopefully, we'll see you all again in 2 years when we have our full cafeteria built right next door to here. That will be grand with meeting spaces and sweeping views. I'm going to leave it here, and Dan's going to pick up the rest of the intro before we turn it over to more speakers.
Let's see if we made that transition. Did that work? Awesome. So before we continue on, I want to just, on behalf of both Andy and me, welcome you guys to the lab. Both of us have been in the lab for a long time. I've been in the lab for for a little more than 25 years somehow. And so we both of us, and Andy's been here for 20-ish. So we both of us love the lab. We were really excited that you're all here. We wanted to make sure we want you to really enjoy this and get a lot out of it, because this is a very special place, which is why we spent so much effort putting this program together for you. So summer program, you're here, so at least you're in the first place and you're in the first event. We have a whole series of specially crafted events to broaden your horizons and try to give you a sense of what it's like to be at the lab and work at the lab and what we do, and also hopefully help you push you toward a career in sciences, or help you with your career wherever path where that might lead. So we have research spotlights to basically fast-paced staff presentations to give you an idea of what we do research lab, and they're designed to cover the whole breadth of what we do in computing sciences. We have some career development workshops, like how to do poster presentation, a CV resume workshop, how to interview. These are important things to have. Even if you don't go into science, these are important things to be able to do and have skills to have. We have some things where we'll give you a chance to talk to more staff and get their perspectives. Like there's a mentoring event, there's a career panel, things like that. Andy mentioned NERSC, right? NERSC, it's almost, you can't really shake a stick here without hitting something that was done on NERSC. I mean, that is the singular, that's where all the computation in DOE Office of Science gets done, or the vast majority of it does. And so there's training events at NERSC to help you learn HPC fundamentals, get the trained to be a NERSC user, how to do supercomputing, things like that. And then beyond just these things, we want to give you a sense of the other things we have at the lab. So the facilities, the actual big things we have. So NERSC, the big supercomputing center, the Advanced Light Source, there's a big accelerator. It's under that big dome up at the top of the hill. The Molecular Foundry, where they're engineering new materials. These are all places we're going to have tours of these places, and watch your emails for signups for these things and sign up and go do these tours. It's always great to go and see the thing in person rather than read about it. And at the very end of everything builds toward this poster session at the end of the season, at the end of the summer. I've been watching a lot of baseball. And that's a chance to basically present what you've done and talk about it. And it's hard to describe how exciting it is, how much fun it is. It sounds very stressful, very boring, but it's actually a lot of fun. So that's something to look forward to at the end of the summer. When you show up for these things, hopefully you notice Lucy sitting at a table outside, and there's a big plastic jar there, right? And she has little sign-in sheets. If you didn't sign in, go back when you leave and sign in. But for every one of those, everything you attend, you can get an entry, a ticket, and we'll put the ticket in the bin. And then at the end, we'll have a drawing for various LBL swag stuff. So fancy, exciting stuff. Hopefully that's not the only reason. Hopefully that's the only reason to show up, but we're trying to motivate you guys to show up. And the way it works is that if you come in person, you get a full entry, and if you attend virtually, we will record your presence, and you'll get half an entry. So if you show up for all the events virtually, you'll get half as many entries as if you show up in person. Hint, hint. We want to see you. We think in-person science is so much better than virtual science. Next. The next event, as Andy already teased, is this. We're going to try to introduce you a little more in depth to what goes on in the CS area and the divisions in it. And so we have the leadership from our division, each talking about what's going on in the division. So Jonathan Carter is the head of the computing sciences area, and then Anna is the director of the scientific data division. Stefan is the director of AMCR, and then Rebecca and Hartman Baker will talk more about NERSC and give you an introduction to NERSC, as well as what, and sort of as a nice segue into the trainings next week. And then if hopefully you were able to register RSVP for lunch, but there'll be lunch afterwards. So we're going to have that. Another reason to show up is that we'll feed you. And if you didn't RSVP for lunch, usually what happens is that we just ask you to wait to the end, and there's almost always food left. I think it was closed last week, wasn't it? All right. So if you haven't RSVP'd, go ahead and RSVP and then come join us. Next. Little organizational note there. So some of you may have seen or heard things from WDE, the Workforce Development and Education part of the lab. A lot of you come in from various different paths. Like I know there's, for example, there's, and some of you may know these, there's a whole bunch of acronyms floating around. And some of you are SULI, which is the Summer Undergraduate Laboratory Internship Program. CCI is a community college internship. VFP is a visiting faculty program. All of those came in through the WDE organization. So and what's important about them is they're lab wide. They're not just CSA, and they run their own set of events and calendar of program. And so it's important to keep track of. You're gonna have to keep track of 2 different calendars of events, and we've worked very hard to synchronize with their schedule to make sure we don't conflict. So you won't have to ever choose between us and them. But a lot of what they do, because of they have this way they set up, a lot of the things they set up are actually mandatory for you if you're being funded through them. So keep an eye on that, keep track of that. Make sure you attend the things you're supposed to attend at, because it's mandatory is sometimes very mandatory. And then make sure you understand, make sure you're creating with your points of contact, which is probably your supervisor, your mentor, what you actually need to do and what your attendance requirements are, because they may be different than what other people have. So that's just a note about the fact that we may hear you talk, you may hear us talk about WDE events, and like there's this whole separate calendar events, which is the lab-wide organization that brings people in for the summer under certain tracks. Next. So we have some advice of how to approach this summer. Just because we've seen this a lot. I think I've been here a long time. And so we have some general advice of how to approach this. One important thing is to talk to your mentor and define clear project goals and outcomes for the summer, with just in terms of have a plan, right? I mean, the plan will change. Research is research. Everything, nothing I've ever done has gone to plan, but it's more to have a plan so you can change it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And this is important. Don't sit there and say, this made no sense to me, but I'll figure it out later. Ask the questions now when you're still talking about it, and you can have the conversation then. We love explaining things. That's why we're here. We love what we do. We will talk forever about what we do. So ask as many questions as it takes to make sure you understand where you're lost, because we don't want you, because it helps no one if you're sitting there going, I'm lost. I'm a cyclist, and so drafting is some drafting I do. And the thing about drafting is that if you're drafting someone, you have to stay with them, right? And if you get gapped, then you're off the back and you're on your own and you never catch up. And that's the same thing here with research. You have to stay. If you're having a conversation, make sure you stay engaged and don't get dropped, because then you'll never catch up. Or it's a tremendous amount of effort to get caught up when you could have just asked a question. Make sure you ask for the resources you need. Don't be shy, and if you need something, even if you need a pen, right? We have pens. We have paper. This is not university, so we have the stuff for you to do the job you're here to do. And that also comes to the ergonomic things too. If you need something to make you more comfortable, definitely ask for those things. If you need computing time, make sure you ask for that too. But the flip side of that is to be reliable and deliver on what you promise, right? So if you promise you something, do it. Or if it gets stuck or something, like I said, research never goes to plan, but be able to come in the next time and say, well, I tried to do this, but this happened. But it's because I was trying to do it. It's not because I was just, flaking on something. Take advantage of everything here. Go to all the seminars and tours you can. This is a unique opportunity. There are things here you'll never see anywhere else. So take advantage of that. Don't get focused so much on your project that you miss everything going on around you, right? I mean, I think that's an important thing, because you're here to learn and to drink in everything that's here. Be part of the poster displays. I mean, participate in the poster session. Don't just let that go by. And then go back to the top and just remember those goals at the top. Keep an eye on them. And as you go through the summer, say, am I making progress to these? And am I making a point? Am I moving toward accomplishing these goals? And if not, then have a conversation with your mentor or advisor about, we don't seem to be moving this way, right? Are we going to make it here? And sometimes these things aren't linear, right? You feel like you're doing nothing, then all of a sudden you're there. And your advisor may know that. Or maybe you actually are stuck and you need to sort of rethink about where you're going. Next. Just a little logistics, because like this is Berkeley Lab is a unique place, and it's set up. It's designed for collaborations in team science, right? So every conference room is also set up to enable Zoom. Right now we are on a Zoom meeting. Make sure your setup is ergonomic. That's an important thing. We don't want you hurting yourself here. And that's an important thing to take through your life. So if you have issues, if you feel like you're not comfortable, let us know immediately so we can fix things before they get out of whack. Carry your badge. You'll need that to get into most buildings, not every building, but most buildings. This building is unique. We don't need the badge to get in, except for certain doors. If you want to bring a visitor on site, it's possible, but make sure you check in with your supervisor. Don't just show up at the gate and say, I want to bring someone in, because that won't work. But it's possible, but just work that. And hopefully you've been invited to and have joined the Slack channel, because there's a lot of the conversations at the lab happen, and especially in CSA, happen on Slack. And a lot of the really fun stuff that happens and sort of the random stuff that happens are on Slack. Also, there's often announcements of free food in Building 59 on Slack. So if you're hungry, check Slack. Next. More work logistics about this. Going back to what Andy said about team science, we're a workplace that's built around team science and respect. And for a lot of you, this may be your first. These are things we've noticed sort of over the past couple of years. If you don't have a lot of experience working in these environments, it can be a little different than what you're used to. You have one thing. The whole thing's built around respect. So you have to give and expect respect, right? Or on your coworkers. If you can't say something nice, then don't say it, right? I mean, occasionally we have issues where people are not used to that kind of thing and wind up saying things that are offensive to other people. And so try to keep that in mind. I mean, be nice to everyone, because everyone is to you. If something is doing around you bothers you, let us know. Let your mentor know, your supervisors know. Andy and I are around. We're in the third floor, building 50A, opposite end of the hallway, so you can't miss us. But we can't fix things if you don't let us know. So let us know if something's going weird. Respect your mentor and supervisor time, and that means things like show up when you say you will. If you have a scheduled meeting in your calendar, show up for that meeting. Don't just say, well, it's there, but never mind. Because your mentor, the staff member you're working with has made time for you, and if we often you have no idea how crazy busy our schedules can be, and so respect that we have made time for you, and we want to spend time with you, but you have to show up. And respect yourself. I mean, be honest about when you need help. If you get stuck, like I said, ask questions, ask a lot of questions, talk to people. And like that builds the next thing, which is communicate. This whole thing is built on my communication. Tell us if something is wrong or right. If you're not feeling well, if you'd like to take advantage of opportunity, if you see something that you're like, I would like to, that looks like an interesting thing, talk to us, talk to your mentor, talk to Andy and I, right? And we can maybe set something up or help you take advantage of something or support you in some way. But we can't do that if we don't know about it. So the big thing is talk to us, talk to everyone, communicate with us, please. Next. All the same things. It's important to RSVP for events, particularly with food. Like, for example, we were just talking about this meeting next on Thursday, right, which has food. Some of those will have head count limits. We need to know how much food to get. And so almost a lot of those things, if they say you need to RSVP, please RSVP and do it. When you see the invitation, when you see the email come by, do it right away. Don't forget, because otherwise you forget about it, you don't do it, and then you're like, I missed that. So RSVPing is essential. We're trying to accommodate as much as we can, but we can't do that if we don't have people RSVPing. So RSVPing is essential. The deadlines actually are meaningful usually. That's if you miss the deadline, let the organizer know as soon as you can. Maybe there's a way to make that work, but definitely, for example, for like the nurse tours and the other tours, a lot of them are space limited. So you have to make sure you register, but make sure you RSVP to get a slot. For food, also, we have to know how much food to get. If you don't RSVP, then you're stuck at the end of the line with what's left over. Yep. Next. More advice. like I said, when you meet with your advisor, have a goal of coming away from the summer with something tangible, like a code or a paper or something, right? Submission, something you're going to write up, or have a target you're working toward. Give at least one talk or poster in the summer. We make that easy by running a poster session, so that's the easy way to get around that. Take advantage to learn about the different jobs available. We all do different things, and some of us do things that all of us do things that are very interesting, but some are more interesting than others. Everyone's interested in what they do, but everyone wants different things. That came out rather badly. Make sure that someone at the lab knows you well enough by the end of the summer to be able to write your reference, right? I mean, thinking down the line, eventually you're going to apply to somewhere, maybe a grad school or a job or something, and you want a reference for this experience here. If you don't ever talk to your advisor, if your advisor doesn't know you well enough to write a good recommendation, that's not going to work very well. So spend time, make sure they're in a place, make sure someone at the lab is in a place where they can write your recommendation that shows off who you are and what you can do and what you were able to do. Another piece of advice that Ann Almgren gave us was update your CV before you leave at the end of the summer. So you have, you're going to put a line on your CV or your resume that says, I spent the summer here. And you're going to have some description of what you did. Do that before you leave and run it by your supervisor, because most likely you probably don't realize how much you did. And people have a tendency to sort of downplay what they did. And we were maybe in a position to say, well, actually what you did was this, and that's really cool. And use this word, because that word will trigger something and be meaningful in a way that what you said is not so much. So next, I think that's it, right? Oh, we have more advice. Meet as many people as you advise. Meet as many people as you can. It can be very casual, meet them for 20, 15, 30 minutes. So you can Zoom or in person. If they're in person, it's better, but you can go for a walk together, get the coffee, tea, do lots of things. If you're going to meet someone like that, try to know something about them before you meet them so you can talk intelligently, right? If you're going to meet someone you're interested in meeting, prep for that meeting. That's usually advice for your life, right? I mean, if there's somebody you want to make contact with, don't go into these things cold. Be curious. I mean, be curious about us. Be curious about everyone around you. Everyone here is doing interesting things. Ask for advice again. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone you don't already know. When I was your age, I was super shy and never talked. And I was the guy standing in the corner who was a shade. And it took me a long time to get past that. And it's the most important thing I've ever done. We love talking. We love talking about what we do. We're excited about what we do, and we want to talk to you. If you feel like you can't reach out to someone, talk to one of us, talk to your mentor, talk to us, and we can make an introduction too. I mean, that's the other thing we can do, right? That works very well. Imposter syndrome is very real. If you feel like you don't belong here, you're here, so you belong here. And it's very easy to look around and say everyone else is smarter, everyone else has got it together, everyone else knows what they're doing, and we don't. We're also faking it. But you can do this. I mean, have confidence in your abilities. You're here, and take advantage of this summer and do the best you can, and you're going to do great things. And then also get out and explore. Take a walks around the hill, look around. Next. So for example, one thing we can do, next slide. There's all these picnic tables all throughout the lab in some pretty cool places. And last summer, we actually had a contest where it's like, okay, find as many of these and turn them in, and whoever finds the most wins. We're not doing this year, but there's these really cool places to have lunch. Like this one. I mean, look at that view. I mean, that's $1 million view, right? You can have lunch there. Next slide. And there's more. And like this one, I mean, look at that. You're on a bluff overlooking the whole bay. I mean, that's like a $50 million house, right? Or you can have lunch there for free. So explore the lab. And then there's also places like this, which are next to a dumpster. But we have all kinds of places. Next slide. And these are a few things you can think about as you move through the day. And keep in mind, like, what is your goal for the summer? Keep in mind, think about what is one fun thing you hope to do this summer. What do you want to take from the experience? And keep those in mind as you go through the summer, because that helps you remember you're here. Remember you're doing exciting things. So next, I think, is Sarah, right? Oh, and questions. That's Andy. That's me. Reach out to us if you have any questions. There's a whole list of summer contacts on this website. But definitely reach out if you have problems or questions or anything. Next is, now it's Sarah. This or that.
Right.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah, and I support the Environmental Health and Safety Program at the CS area. So if you have any safety-related questions, I'm your contact. Next slide. Okay, so as Dan and Andy mentioned, the terrain here is really hilly. So we've got some photos. Pocketing your phone, using the handrails, wearing good shoes. This is not the best place for your high heels. Also keep in mind that many of our spaces, including the nurse computer room, require flat closed-toed shoes. So if you're a sandal person, it'd be a good idea to at least have some tennis shoes on hand if you plan to go into any of those rooms. You should have all received an email with instructions on WPC, which stands for Work Planning and Control. This is our system for delivering safety training to you. And we also have BLT, Berkeley Lab training, which will deliver some additional courses. So take a look at that, complete those courses, accept the activity, and that should pretty much be a one and done activity for the duration you're here this summer. If you are a cyclist, keep in mind that the speed limit is 15 miles an hour for both bikes and cars. So we all share the road here. If you're a pedestrian, be on the lookout for cars and bikes. Ensure that your bike is in good condition. So this is not the place you want to be when a tire goes out or your brakes go out. We do have some resources, some bike repair kits around the hill, but it's a good time to take a preventative measure and make sure everything's in order before bringing your bike. E-bikes are also permitted, but keep in mind that 15-mile-an-hour speed limit still applies. So I know those bikes go much faster, but 15 across the board, less depending on scenarios such as traffic or if it rains, anything like that. Pedestrians. So we want you to use the crosswalks, cross at the designated intersections, and always be on the lookout for cars, shuttles, bikes. This location is prone to wildfire, so we all have a responsibility to do everything we can to prevent a fire on the hill. If you are a smoker, we have designated areas for that, and each of those areas has a designated receptacle to dispose of cigarettes. And then wildlife. So there are a number of species here. We have deer, turkeys, even bobcats and mountain lions. So regardless of the species, we want you to keep in mind that they are all wild. So you should not be interacting, trying to pet any of them. Taking photos from a safe distance is acceptable. We will have goats in a couple weeks. So if you see the goats, they are here to help us eat down the vegetation. But please don't engage with any of the wildlife. And if you see anything of concern, if you see a bobcat, if you see an injured animal, you can contact our site operations center, who will deploy someone to assist. Okay, so computer ergonomics, you guys are all going to be spending a good amount of time working on a laptop. So your workstation will be equipped with an external mouse, keyboard, and monitor, as well as a device to connect all of those to your laptop. If you're missing anything, please speak up. If you like to use your laptop screen as an additional monitor, we can also get you a laptop riser to prop it up higher. So don't hesitate if you have any questions about how to use the sit-stand desks or adjust your chair. You are at a stage of life where you probably can get away with working directly on that laptop without the pain that I would incur. But keep in mind that that can build up over time. So even if you feel comfortable now working directly on your laptop without these devices, we know that that will compound over time. So it's highly recommended that you utilize those resources. Yeah, and then stretch breaks. So ideally, if you can fit in a short break, whether it's taking a walk, standing up, stretching, giving your eyes a rest from the computer, we like to target that once every hour. And it doesn't have to be long, like 5 minutes or less is fine. But just to break up that pattern of continuously sitting at the desk. And then back to that WPC, you guys were all triggered to take an ergo self-assessment as part of that training, and that assessment will also give you some additional tips and tricks. Next slide. Okay, so incident reporting. So at Berkeley Lab, we require that all injuries and near misses be reported to myself and your supervisor. So a near miss is any event that could have resulted in an injury but did not, primarily resulting from just luck. So if any of these scenarios occur, please report in a timely manner. This allows us to ensure that you get any care that you may need, but also allows us to review the scene and correct any hazards so someone else doesn't come along and get hurt in a similar manner. For life-threatening emergencies or signs of fire, we ask that you call 911. And then for anything non-life-threatening, we have our health services team up on the hill. And this does include instances of unsafe driving. So if you're crossing the street and a car blasts through a stop sign and almost runs you over in an intersection, please say something once you get safely back to your workstation so that we can track that person down and have a conversation. Next slide. Okay, so the next few slides are going to go into emergency response. So we are divided up into 6 zones here at the lab, and there could potentially be situations where they tell us to shelter in place by zone. So if that applies, we are in zone 1 wherever we're in this building, anywhere in the 50 complex, building 59. So unless you're on a tour over at ALS, for example, that would put you in zone 3, but for the most part, you're going to be in zone 1. So this could apply if there's, for example, a fast-moving wildfire and it's determined that we can't all get off the hill at the same time. We would shelter in either this building or building 59 until it is deemed safe to leave. Next slide. So in the event of a fire, there will be horns, strobes will activate in the building. We ask that you evacuate immediately through the nearest exit. If possible, grab your belongings because it could be a scenario in which we don't know when we could get back into the building. But this only applies if you're sitting at your desk and the strobes go off. If you are in the restroom, for example, your desk is on the other side of the building, you're going to just evacuate, not go back to your desk to get any belongings. And then you'll assemble at the nearest emergency assembly area, which I have more on in another slide. Okay, yes, we already discussed the wildfire. So next slide. Earthquake. So we are in earthquake country here for those of you who are out of state. So in the event of an earthquake, you're going to drop, cover, and hold until the shaking stops. If you have a desk to go under, that is ideal. Otherwise, if you're in a location where there isn't any sturdy furniture to take cover under, you're going to shelter next to a solid wall, squat in place, and cover your head with your arms. If you're outside during an earthquake, don't run back inside to the building because you have no idea what hazards could be waiting for you en route. So in that case, you're going to stay outside and drop, cover, and hold. Once the shaking has stopped, then you'll evacuate as was previously described. Next slide. So some of the assembly areas outside building 59. So in general, the closest area will be when you exit through the main doors on the 3rd floor, you'll turn left, go across the patio, and then you're currently going to see some construction on that side of the hill. And there's a yellow sign indicating that the assembly point is there. If for some reason you can't reach that assembly point, there is another one on the north side of the building, right by the shuttle. And then there's another assembly point over at the Building 88 parking lot. Just keep in mind, both of those assembly points require you to cross the street, and Building 59 is located by our main entrance to the lab. So if you do need to cross the street to get to one of those other assembly areas, be sure to look before you cross the road. We don't want to impede any emergency vehicles that are coming up the hill to assist us. And next slide. And then so 50 complex gets more complicated. From this room, your closest assembly area will be through the doors to the back and then off to the right. There's also an assembly area in the parking lot kind of diagonally off to the left. But depending on if you're in 50A, 50B, which floor you're on, another assembly area could be closer. So it's recommended that you take a walk around the perimeter, orient yourself so you have an idea where to go in an emergency. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always reach out to me. If you need help with your ergo setup, we have a number of resources. So Mark Hilo of the CSIT team is the designated ergo advocate for those in AMCR and SciData. Aaron Garrett is our designated ergo advocate in NERSC. And then in ESNet, you have 5 or 6 ergo advocates, and it's all broken up by whoever your group's admin is. So if you ever need help determining who the contact is, feel free to just ping me and I can assist you or direct you. And that is all that I have. Any questions? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Brie Fulton. I am with the sustainability group. We're called Sustainable Berkeley Lab. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about waste at the lab. So Sustainable Berkeley Lab has all areas. We try to help everyone at the lab reduce their footprint in terms of how much energy we use, how much waste we generate, and how much water we use. And every program has these different priorities. So here in waste, we take a approach where, number one, we track what is in the waste bins. We do audits every year, and we've taken other types of audits throughout the years. So we have a pretty good idea of what is going in people's bins. And we use those so we can figure out how to meet some goals that we have to minimize and divert the waste that we do generate. So as it was mentioned, we're part of the UC system here, and the UC University of California has a lot of goals that we need to abide by. One of them is we're trying to achieve zero waste, which means diverting all the waste that's generated. 90% of that should be going into either a recycling bin or a compost bin. And the other goal is just to reduce everything that is going in the bins in the first place. And so the goal for that is to basically cut our waste in half of what we were producing in 2016 by the time we get to 2030. So they're quite ambitious goals. At the most basic, it's really just, achieved by sorting your waste. And you can do that by getting up and going to a central waste station, which I'll describe later, and knowing what goes in the bins. I mean, it is pretty basic. I think probably most of you have a pretty good idea what does go in the bins, but we have signage and we have a website you can go to called the Waste Guide, where if you are unsure about what to do with a particular item, you can look it up and it will tell you exactly what to do with it. So I told you we do audits. So these are the results from the audit that we did in 2024. And you can see there's 3 streams. There's landfill, recycling, and compost. And the biggest deal that you see here is landfill. Basically, half the stuff that goes in the landfill bin should actually be going in the recycling or the compost bin. So that's that red portion of the bar that you see over to the far left. Another word we use for that is contamination. So you see less of that. It's less of a big deal in recycling. Compost is pretty clean. So basically the main, most of what you find in the landfill that should have gone in recycling or compost is actually compost. And if you look over to the far right, those first 3 bullet points are some of our top contaminants. Food goes in compost, paper towels, compost, paper cups, takeout containers, anything you're going to get from the food truck, most everything from there is going to go into the compost. One thing that is different about the lab than maybe you've seen in other places if you're from the Bay Area, there's stuff called compostable plastic. It looks like plastic, feels like plastic, but it says it's compostable. It's not here. So you need to put that in the landfill. That's probably the biggest thing to call out. And so this one is a little interesting. We have an initiative called Kick the Can. So I showed you all the contamination in the landfill. And basically it comes from the bin under people's desk. There will be one bin there, and human default behavior typically is to just put everything in that one bin. But nobody sorts the waste after it goes in the bin. If you put it in that one bin, it's going to stay in that one bin. And what you see here in this graph is the left is how contaminated those under desk bins are. To the right is what the landfill bins at our waste stations look like. So this is a waste station that you go to. So when we sort the waste from that landfill bin to see how contaminated it is, it's that blue bar to the right. It's about 14%. Takeaway messages is that it's pretty basic to sort your waste, but you do have to get up and go to the waste station to do it and make an effort. Once people do and they go there, they do a great job. So I mentioned the waste guide. That's the URL at the top, wasteguide.lbl.gov. If you have any questions about where anything goes, you just type your item into the search bar at the very top and it will tell you what to do with it. You can also look by product categories. I'm here telling you about most typical waste you're going to encounter, and being that you're not in operations, probably most of your waste is going to be pretty basic, but there are other categories that you'll encounter in labs. Furniture, hazardous waste, I don't think most of those apply to you, but everything is here at this one site, should you have any questions. And we have a little quiz that can introduce you to some of the more common items at the lab. And you can just take the quiz and it will just kind of take you through what goes where. And as a bonus, I don't have it on the slides, but one thing that's really confusing are utensils. There's like the real plastic ones, there's the biodegradable plastic ones, and then here you'll find that you get wooden utensils, which are kind of annoying because they actually don't work that well. If you do a search for utensils on the waste guide, you'll be taken to an entry where there is a form for your own set of reusable utensils. So I'm not making it easy for you. I'm making it so you have to go to the site and actually search for utensils and participate. But if you do that, you'll find a link where you can get your own set of reusable utensils. So take note. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always contact me or go to our website, sbl.lbl.gov. We have a lot more data there. There's a little QR code to the waste guide, and I think this information will be available to you after the presentation if you need to send me a note for any reminders. And that's all I've got for you. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, thank you for your time and enjoy your summer here at the lab.
So thanks, everyone. That's all we have for today.
We
If
hope
anyone-
this,
If anyone has any questions, we have some minutes, some time, but otherwise, we'll see you Thursday. Yes?
Where do we request, or who do we request the like ergonomic stuff, like the laptop price?
Repeat the question. Where people
The question was, if you have an ergonomic issue, where do you start and who do you ask for that help?
we'll bring up the slide.
Sarah McGinn, if you, Sarah McGinn suggests that you should ask Sarah McGinn.
Are we sharing the slide deck with everybody?
Yes, the slide deck will be shared after this.
Slide deck will be shared that has that on there as well.
Yes?
Mention about visitor, your last minute activity. Right, affiliates cannot, not possible.
So yes, you cannot host a visitor. You would have to talk to your supervisor and they would have to host the visitor. So if you have somebody, if your parents are visiting, right, or something, you want to show them where you were spending the summer, talk to your supervisor, mentor, and it can probably be arranged, but it would have to be through them, not through you. But it possibly, I mean, it depends on what everyone's doing and whether there's spaces, but it's logistically possible, but you can't do it yourself. The question was, how, as an affiliate, how can I bring someone to the lab? And the answer is, actually, you can't. But your advisor or your mentor can. Any questions? All right. So maybe some of you are heading to the food trucks, which are just over the hill that way. Maybe some are heading back to where your out desks are, but thanks for coming.
See you Thursday.